We start in Tianjin, in China, where a series of world leaders have been arriving for a regional security summit. It's a gathering which features several countries who have experienced growing diplomatic tensions with the West in general and the US in particular. Vladimir Putin has made a rare trip outside Russia. Moscow faces the threat of new US sanctions if it fails to agree a ceasefire in Ukraine with Donald Trump's deadline. Also, due at the gathering, more than 20 world leaders. Iran's president, whose country has been condemned by Washington for supporting militant groups across the Middle East. And India's Prime Minister Modi visiting China for the first time in 7 years. India was hit by new US trade tariffs this week. Donald Trump said it was a response to India buying Russian oil and weapons. Modi has already held a bilateral meeting with China's President Xi. Those talks seem to have gone well. Chinese state media says the two leaders agreed that relations between Delhi and Beijing could be stable and far-reaching. Let's speak to Steve McDonald, our China correspondent, who is there for us. Hi, Steve. So just talk us through what's been happening there.
Well, here in Tianjin, there's a lot of excitement in this city about them hosting this summit, the Shanghai Cooperation Organisation summit. But I think in news terms, it could well be these meetings on the sidelines of this summit which get all the attention, especially, for example, and you mentioned the one between Xi Jinping and Narendra Modi. Now, in a case of spectacular timing, the Indian leader has come here just as the Trump administration has whacked India with these 50% tariffs. So India's looking around for other potential economic partners, and here's China saying, well, come on, it's about time for us to patch up our differences. Now, when they had their meeting this morning, both sides said it was very successful, and I'll tell you some of what they've were both saying to each other according to the official readout. So according to Xi Jinping, at a time when the world is going through a period of transformation, it's vital for these two countries to be not only friends but good neighbours. And he used this expression, which he's used before, that it's also vital for the dragon and the elephant to come together. Now, this has become like Xi Jinping's catchphrase for relations between India and China improving. As for Modi, he was much more specific. He spoke about the agreement which had been reached by the special representatives of both of these countries regarding border management. Now, this will be about this disputed border area, remote border area, which has seen deadly clashes involving the soldiers of both of these countries. They've had teams sitting down and discussing this with a view to stopping that from happening in the future. He also said that direct flights would resume between the two countries. I think many people in other parts of the world would be surprised to know that there hadn't been direct flights between China and India, but it just shows how bad relations had been with no tourists, no student exchanges and the like. Well, they're going to sort of ratchet that up again. And Modi also said that it was in the interests of 2.8 billion people that the two of them could get on along with one another. And when you think about it, it's quite true. I mean, these are the world's two most populous nations, and if they can cooperate with one another, the potential is obviously enormous. Modi also said if they could get along with one another, this would be for the benefit of the entire global community. So it sounds like it was a sort of a bit of a love fest between the two of them, and certainly much better than what they, would have expected for years ago when relations were pretty sour between China and India.
Steve, thank you very much for that. We're going to speak now to Anastasia Shapakina, president of the geoeconomics think tank Eastern Circles. Thank you for coming on the programme.
Thank you.
So let's start with this relationship between China and India then. Steve, just outlining some of the history and some of the seeming development. How significant do you think it is?
I think that this rapprochement between the two strategic rivals, right, historically, shows us the new stage of development of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the ambition, especially, that China has for it as a new potential, one of the potential new centrifying kind of forces to bring together the countries from both Western and Western kind of camp and the global South. around a new architecture of global governance, challenging the Bretton Woods system set up by the United States after the World War II, as China is basically uniting it with the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. And it is especially telling, if you look back at the history of this Shanghai Cooperation Organization, within which the bilateral meeting is taking place between Modi and Xi. And it started in the 90s as a union of 5 countries around 2 issues, fighting drug trafficking and terrorism across the Tajik-China border and the borders that China shares with Central Asia, uniting 4 Central Asian countries and Russia and China, and then evolved in 2001 into what is now known as Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which had as an ambition this more broader security access, uniting around it already now 10 nations. And today we see between 2001 and 2024. And today it's like a new stage. We see at Shanghai Cooperation Organization such countries which are strategic rivals as China and India coming to a rapprochement and really being interested in cooperation together for the reasons, of course, which now go beyond security reasons.
Yeah.
And
can I just ask you, just because we're vaguely short of time here, but I just want to get to the role of Russia. How significant is Russia's role here?
For Russia, unlike for India, which is it's a historic moment of rapprochement, but now for Russia, this is more one of the meetings. There's going to be also a bilateral meeting between Xi and Putin coming up, and this is just one in a series of meetings which have been already over a couple of dozen over the last 25 years, and the meetings which basically underscore the close strategic alliance between Russia and China. China is, and this is just one of the settings, and these meetings have taken place in numerous settings, and the alliance has been deepening since the early 2000s, since the construction of the Esco pipeline, the oil pipeline between China and Russia, but also especially deepened since 2022 as China underpins Russia's war effort in Ukraine, and without China's economic partnership with Russia, Russia is being able to reorient its oil exports to China and also to a lesser extent to India, and also build strong economic ties, reorient from west to east. Without this, Russia would not be able to lead the war today. So this is just a sequence of the strategic partnership and alliance which is being built.
Anastasia Shapakina, thank you very much for coming on the programme. Thank you.